Welcome to the Outside the Business Boxes podcast, where we're talking about how to ignite your business today for the future using systems for everything you do in your business to make your life, your employees' lives, and your customers' lives easier for you to ultimately enjoy your business and, of course, make more money. I'm your host, Chad Murray.
All right, thanks for coming to Outside the Business Box podcast. This is Chad Murray, your host, the guy with the most, or maybe not, I don't know, it doesn't matter. But here we are today. I've got my good buddy, the whole industry king, Mark Stoner. He is one of my newest best friends, and I think he'd say the same. We are brothers in a lot of the chimneys and brothers in as we live. And we are here today. We're going to be talking about two things that we actually have a different type of system and a different philosophy on, which is kind of unique because we really do share the way we run our businesses. And maybe I'm a 5 million behind him, but we run our businesses just, pretty much the same way. But this is something that's big that he tells in his book and his story, how he got a hold of his accountability and stuff. And I never had this problem, and I still don't in our business now. So let's bring Mark on. Hey, Mark.
Hey, Chad, thanks for having me. And I feel the same way about you, man. We became fast friends, and we're in this journey together doing stuff. So thank you for having me.
Oh, love having you on here. And everyone loves having you on here too. But by the way, since I have you on here, and I know you listen to my podcast, which I appreciate about, the Bob Ferry. Wow. Great job.
Yeah, Bob.
Great job.
It's one of those deals on that interview that, I asked him to be part of it. And then when he came on and he just started talking, I just had to let the guy talk. I'm like, I just need to just record him talking. I just need to ask a couple questions and let that guy go. He's such an amazing storyteller, and I love to hear him talk. It was just, Mark, get out of the way and let that guy go. And had a lot of impact on people. And I think you and I both kind of chase impact. If we're doing this, we want to at least help people and hear that we've helped people. And that episode really did that.
Well, I thought when you came, I may have been one of the first person you came down after you did it. You said, "Hey, I just got Bob up there," and you were telling him, I could see it on you. Yeah. I could see the impact on you. And it was like, what I thought was so amazing and why I called you Barba Wawa on my podcast was you had the vision to get him up there and talk. Not a lot of people would have done that, if not anybody. And you did that. And I thought that was, that shows everyone talks about how great Mark Stoner is. Oh, come on, let's face it. We all do. We do. And I know you don't, maybe you like it or maybe you don't, doesn't matter. We all talk about it. And the fact of the matter is that right there was a shiny moment that you did something that no one else even thought about doing. And it was probably right now one of your best ones in a while. You probably didn't say 1,000 words. He just let it out. It was awesome.
Well, thank you for saying that. When I was talking to him in the hallway before the podcast, and he was so like heartfelt about everything he said. And he's like, I just don't know really what to do. And I said, man, I'll tell you, it seems like what you might need to do is use your wisdom and help other people. And I didn't think of the podcast right then when I said that. And he's like, yeah, maybe you're right. And then I was doing some other stuff. And I'm like, man, let me ask him to share this. It might help him, but it might help other people. I'll tell you, I've listened to that thing 6 times myself, just listening to him talk. And he just reaches another level. And you've seen some of the comments, like best podcast ever. I did nothing but let that guy talk. And there was just magic in it. We kind of caught magic in a bottle with him. And it was just a real raw, very emotional time for him. And that's really what the best part of it was. And the main thing was a lot of people said it really impacted them and it helped them and it helped me too. So thank you for saying that. And it's true.
Really I'll say one more thing before we move on. I had 3 people that I know, not all in chimney business. 2 of them are in chimney. One is outside of business that have been dealing with a mother death or something. And they have had a real rough time getting over it, or they're going through it. And I shared your podcast with them and said, listen, I texted it over. I said, take a listen to this. This is going to give you, I think, some very much clarity that you're just not alone. right? That this isn't, because I think a lot of times when people are going through this kind of grief, you are alone, right? But you're not the first person. Like, I mean, Bob even said it at your podcast. You're not the first person to have someone die on you, right? But you're alone in your journey to get through it, and you probably never go through it all the way. And that was what he was talking about, which was so powerful, because you're never over it. You're never over that.
Yeah.
But how do you move on? Right.
He said some things about people like, well, just get over it. He's like, no, I'm not just getting over it. And he said, I thought was really insightful was, because you're uncomfortable around me, it's not my job to make you feel comfortable. Like a lot of people say, I'm sorry, but they say, I'm sorry in a way that you're like, oh no, it's okay. Don't feel that way. And all of a sudden the person who's grieving is now trying to console somebody else. And he's like, that's not my job, man. Just be there and don't say words. It was really impactful. I don't need your words. I need you to just be there. When he was a pastor and that little kid got killed by a handgun, he just had to go be with the family. I'm like, man, that's just good knowledge, because I haven't ever had that kind of grief, like losing a child.
Well, who has? Not like that.
I can't imagine.
Yeah.
And he helped me understand who I need to be in the future if I face it or I'm around it.
Yeah. I mean, and the funny thing was, when he was saying about that, I felt like he was talking to the former Chad, because I was the jester of stupid shit, saying stuff to people. And I never said stuff like "get over it," but I mean, I would say just dumb things to try to help them, which
you don't know what
was
to say.
No help at all. So I felt better for saying it, like he said, but they didn't get anything out of it, right? Oh, I'm helping. It's like, yeah, just shut up.
It was true wisdom. He just laid wisdom on that podcast. And if anybody, it's a Blue Collar Gold podcast number 155, Bob Ferrari. Not to promote my podcast, but Chad's got a great podcast. But this one special message is very unique. And
oh no, I said it on the last week's. I gave it right out. I appreciate you doing it. I mean, we're talking about it. It was probably the most impactful one of this year that if not ever. When it comes to, it wasn't chimney talk, it was life.
Yeah.
And it was hard life. I mean, and it was wow. So, and it was just good. I mean, so anyway. Thank you for that. Good job, Barbara Wawa.
Marky Wawa.
Anyway, so our topic today, as and I appreciate it. You were gonna talk about it on Surefire tonight, and you held off for me to do it on our podcast today. And so it's about the account. So we both read, I think it was yesterday's podcast of a guy. And by the way, do you know Ben, who put that podcast on?
I don't.
I do. He's actually not a business owner. He's actually the lead guy for a company. And since it's not out there, I won't say who it is. But I coach this company, and he's a very I helped wake him up to the chimney industry. And it's not his first time he's in there asking. I love the fact he's like my Cody. He's becoming this guy's Cody. And so, which is awesome, right? And so he asked that question, and I was waiting for you. I was actually holding back and waiting for you to say something, but everybody else was talking about your point system, everything else, blah, blah, blah. And I'll first, everybody pretty much knows about the point system, but I'll first tell my side of it, since it's my podcast, and then we'll go into how you do it, which I think a lot of people have heard. But I think you said something that was really good just on Surefire, how you're now the hammer, which is kind of interesting, full circle on why you have that system. And so, because you certainly didn't used to be a hammer.
Correct.
I mean, you were.
And I think too, listening to you is listen to how you were and how you are. I think you and I have got to this place different ways. I think you started hard and got easy. And so that's why maybe you don't have the same process that I do. And I started too easy and had to get hard. But I think we have come to a place through different methods. And I think to this point, to your podcast, I think it's a great idea to show your method and my method, because we started off, I think, from different starting points.
Right. So everybody, I'll tell you my method. Being from the military and just, being being the oldest kid of my brothers, and just everything that, it probably was driven more from ego, but also I just always had coming from the place of the military, and this is the system, this is how you have to work it. I taught you the system. There isn't anything outside of the system. I've been that way since I went in the military. And then when I was a restaurant manager for a little while, it was all about the systems. Like I used to be a pizza manager, and it's like you have to put 3 ounces of olives on that. And if I saw 3.5 or 2.25, it's like, no, it's 3 ounces of olives, right? And that's just the way I've always been, because you're just inviting QC, you're inviting, everything goes chaotic if you don't conform to the system that's working at the point you're at. So I've always had no problem telling people as they start working for me, yeah, we have a great culture, we have great people. And by the way, if you do this, this, and this, I'm going to can your ass. I mean, it's actually in my videos so when we onboard people, me and my wife made a video, and me and John, my general manager, made a video, and they have 2 videos they watch, and me and John get right down to the dirties. Like if you and your wife or girlfriend have to talk all day long, then please just don't even fill out the paperwork and walk out the door, because we're not going to tolerate that. By the way, if you're going to, and we don't say this, I'm joking now, but we did have this issue. If you got to poop after you're on the clock, then no, you're not going to clock in with me. No, but I actually helped another company with that last week.
You did?
I did.
The poop rule.
They had to poop. They needed a poop rule. It was great. And so
funny.
But anyway, so the way we don't have a point system, but the way the system works is this. We watch every job every day and everything that they do, and they get notes every day on what they did or didn't do. And generally, if it's done right by Brian, my assistant general manager, there's 5 or 6 notes a day, and typically little dumb stuff, right? Nothing big. We track their in and out on timing and what time they get to their jobs. And we catch patterns and before things are happening. And so we just have such the management system and we have the PTO. We give them PTO, so we don't, if calling in sick, if you call in sick and if you don't go to the doctor, well, you're in trouble, and trouble is not defined. It's either we're going to write you up or we're going to give you the week off. We just seem to find stuff out. We'll check their Facebook, it's just so funny. Like, I mean, when I said, and this was no joke, the guy 6 or 7 years ago had 7 grandmas die in 1 year. Literally. It's like, duh. I don't know how many ex-wives you have that you have all these grandmas, but I'm sorry. On that 7th grandma, finally someone, I think it was David, my CFO, he's like, wait a minute. And he pulled up all the guys' requests, and it was like literally in 12 months, 7 grandmas. And then we didn't even question. It's like, we just don't need you anymore. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
And so, and the crew leaders, we have very good tenure crew leaders now. I mean, we have 6 of them in Dallas and 1 in Houston. And these guys, they just walk the walk. And when we put trainees with them to learn to be our next elite crew leaders and stuff. And our goal is 12 crew leaders in Dallas here in the next 4 months. And we have 3 ready to go. They're just still helpers. We're not busy enough to give them keys yet. It's just like, this is how we work. We don't roll any other way. And I will say this, we do have a little bit of freedom on the taking the days off, but they absolutely do not get paid if they go over their PTO. It's like, but we will allow them if they tell us in time, I really do need a day off. Okay, well, you're not getting paid, but if you need to take it, take it. But we just don't have, just because all the guys that work for me now don't know me from 2000 and like, let's say 15 and before. They never saw like Mad Chad. They never saw that, but all the management still has PST from me. I mean, whatever it's called. And PTSD. So PTSD, they all still have it for me, which is why it was funny when I got that call today from Brian, which, by the way, Brian's my assistant general manager. We're childhood friends. And so, I mean, those are the guys that back in the day when Mad Chad was still running the company, I mean, I would lay into him. I mean, because I love him and I could, and he allowed me to do it, which I wish he wouldn't have. And I wish I would have been a better person. And there's been many sorries to that gentleman a lot over the years, but he stuck it out. He knew where my heart was. And I never yell. I never yell anymore. I mean, I have this year raised my voice about a month ago to the management team, and that was it. It was about the ropes and ladders stuff. It was like, I'm just done. You guys are all fired or off for a week with no pay if you just don't keep this going. And it's been back to foolproof, but it's an intensive thing. They got to get a text to see their setup, and that's it. Now, we haven't actually fired anybody. We fired one dude this year. That's it. And I don't believe we fired anybody last year. And not because there was no reason to fire anybody. And I think we've had maybe, I think we're up to like 43, 44 employees right now. And we actually have 18 trucks on the road right now. And we have 30 trucks, which is one of the things that Chuck always calls me. Stop saying you have 30 trucks. You only have how many running? It's like, I just don't think about it when I tell people. I just have extra trucks, and I've always been that way. But anyway, so we have 18 trucks running right now between the cities, and we just don't. The guys just do their job, and we hold them right away accountable, and we don't have a day off thing or a point system. And when you talk to my management, like I'll call them up when I'm in a coaching session. What do you think? Like someone, I haven't done it in a couple months now, but I'll call up. My management team loves it. I'm in coaching. Prove it to this guy. I ask a question and they answer, right? And I'll call up John. It's like, what's our culture like? What do you, how many times have you had to fire anyone lately? He goes, I haven't fired anyone in a year, or something. Don't have to, and they don't know that curveball's coming from me and all that. And so that's just the way. And maybe I'm super unique the way I built my company like this. But when I've talked to other people who have had the point system, their issue is like that, like Ben yesterday, and that you had at that time. So when the rubber meets the mat and they get to 23 and then they hit 24, do you got the balls to do it? Which we all say, if you're going to have the system, you got to do it. And the smaller you are, the harder the hit, right?
Right.
I mean, and when we're all, but here's where I was always different. I never gave a shit. I would get rid of someone in a second and retrain them because I had a 2-week training program to learn how to do chimney stuff back in the day. So I didn't care. And back in the day, you could take an ad out of the Dallas Morning News, have 100 applicants. And I'd find 3 of them. I hired 2 of them, and I would train both of them. One of them would fall off, and I had a guy working for me. And that was how we used to do it. Now it's way different. I get it. But that's our system. And so we just keep it. I guess you'd say our system is we take no shit, but we're not hard. I mean, I don't know how to say it. We're not hard asses. We just make them do their job and talk about it all the time, and we're very good at intentional culture telling. I mean, I don't think I've showed you some of the videos that we've been doing since our intentional culture last year. We got this one video. I show it to all my new sweeps I trained to sell masonry, and my company's seen it several times now. It's called You Matter.
Oh, really?
I'll send you the link when we're done here.
Okay.
You're going to show your company tomorrow. This thing will pump up because it's about You Matter. It doesn't matter if you're brand new. It doesn't matter if you're an old dog. It doesn't matter who you are. No matter what you do and you show up, no matter what you think you do is insignificant, it matters. And you matter. And it goes into, it's about a 3-minute video, and it'll tear me up because I know what the impact is. I've given it to every one of my people, and it matters. And I start building up my people in the last 5 years. And that's why we don't have people quitting. And honestly, we're low pay. We've upped our pay. We're still upping our pay. We're still trying to figure out the right thing that doesn't kill us to up our prices as well. But here we were. Probably in the chimney industry, we were a little higher than everybody in Dallas. But when they can go to Amazon and work for $25 an hour, yet they're working for me for $17 an hour, it's pretty low to be a crew leader. And now our crew leaders are all making 20 to 25. but it was just like, I don't know. So that's me talking a lot, guys, everybody. So let's talk about the point system versus, or your thoughts on what I said about my thing.
So again, I think sometimes we come at it at a different angle, and your angle was you started hard. So it's kind of, your leaders learned that, and they probably, kind of had that kind of shadow of the leader thing kind of happen throughout your company. I come from the other side. I had no military background. I'm a musician. So man, musicians, we're not organized at all. We're all creative, and we don't really work on structure very well. So I built a company that was I started off with all musicians as my helpers. So a lot of times the guys gave me a hard time because they said, Mark, you're really just playing in a band to get cheap labor because all of us are broke and we're all working for you on the side doing chimneys. And so I came from probably the 180-degree opposite from the military that you could get. That being said, when I started to build the company, I kind of still had that laissez-faire type of, hey, man, I'm your buddy. We're your guys, man. Just show up. We're buds. Let's get this thing knocked out. And at first, when it was just my friends, of course, they were better. And then when they didn't show up, it was no big deal. You're just, hey, man, I'll see you tomorrow, whatever.
Yeah.
And so as I started growing the company with that thought process, it became very hectic for me, because I did not want to be the hammer. I did not want to be Mad Mark. I did not want to do any of those things. So therefore, I built a company that anybody could kind of call out for any reason. So my point system works like this. I had a problem with attendance. People were showing up late, calling out in the morning, calling out on Mondays, calling out on Fridays, calling out the day before a holiday, or calling out the day after a holiday, extending the holiday. And what I noticed was the people who had hurt the most was my good people. My good people that were there every day had to pick it up for these crap holes that were not showing up. And I watched my good people get mad and get upset and want to quit. And also I was being disrespected by those guys. And they would say, Mark, if you're not going to take up for yourself, why do I want to take up for you and try to hold the line when you're not even caring about it? And I did care about it, but I just didn't know what to do. So I found a point system from another company. And I researched several different point systems. And this one had points, had warnings, had penalties. And eventually, if you don't get the thing, you're terminated. It's a year-round thing, so the points kind of keep going. It's a continuous cycle. But there's also a good side. If you don't get so many points, you get extra days of vacation. So there were penalties, but there were also rewards. And so I like that. I wanted to have a system that would get to have warnings that everybody understood. It's a no-fault policy, and I think this is what's important. If you don't have a policy, then you're judging stories. If you have people that are calling out late or calling out sick or whatever, and the story is, hey man, I had a blown tire, I had a sick child, I'm sick, you're like judging the story as okay. But if a guy tells you the truth and says, hey man, I couldn't get my ass out of bed, hey man, I don't feel like coming in, then they don't get the grace that, so they learn to not tell you the truth. They tell you a story of a dead grandma, of a tragic story. They get into telling better and better stories because that's okay. But if he tells you the damn truth, then that's not okay. So I got to judging stories. I'm like, some of these sound like horse shit because they know I would judge it as okay. So I'm like, it's a no fault policy. If you're not here, you get 3 points. If but if you write down, you're going to be out and we approve it, there's no points.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to have life happen and be late and have stuff happen. So the points are very forgiving. It's only when if it's on a 24-point system and you hit 12 points, you get a warning. It's a written warning. You're halfway through, but every month, let's say you get 3 points this June, next May, or next June 1st, those points come off. So a year later, the points you achieved I won't go into the details because people don't have the paperwork, but basically It's very fair. It's a rolling schedule. It penalizes you, but here's the thing. The first time I rolled it out, I hit 24 points and it was busy season. I didn't want to lose my people, so I didn't fire him. Another guy hit the 24 points. I didn't fire him. They kept getting the points and I didn't fire him. And I'm like, what's the point of the policy if I don't enforce it? So I started all over. I said, guys, I will fire you when you hit 24 points. And sure enough, same guys got the points. I fired them. Next guy had fired 5 guys in busy season. Everybody got the hint. We really don't have a problem. To your point, Chad, we haven't fired anybody probably in 2 years. It doesn't happen. I have one guy getting close to a points issue right now, and he will be fired. I love the kid, but it just won't work if I don't enforce it. I really don't have to enforce it. The whole company says, dude, this is serious. You will lose your job. You will not be coming back. And so therefore the policy has been one of the best things I've put in place because I don't have to enforce anymore. It barely matters, but it matters in the background. And I think to your point, to wrap it up for my part, you had something in the background that was mad Chad. I think that it plays in the background. Don't get Chad mad. Don't get this. So therefore it kept people in line. I didn't have that. I'm like, nice guy, Mark. Well, now it's not so much that I believe in being kind, not necessarily nice.
Yeah.
So that's my thing in a nutshell, how I enforce it. And it's been one of the best things ever. But I see these guys roll out point systems and they start making all these exceptions. And I saw a guy say something about, if you motivate your people right, you won't have to have any those kind of policies. I've never found that to be the case.
No.
I find it's more likely to spin off into chaos. Right now we have 110 people throughout the company. If I don't have policies, now I don't have policies necessarily for my chocolate company. There's a few policies for the powder coat and metal fab. Most of my policies fall into my biggest part of the operation, which is the chimney side and the blue collar guys. They need some kind of leadership and policies, and they all agree to it. And we run a good operation, but my policies and your policies can be different. We can achieve the same results, but you have to have something.
I have a question for you. So one thing that's always on my mind when I hear someone or even hear you talking about the point system is I know you just said you have the halfway rule and they get written up or at least talked about it, right? But to me, I always looked at it. What I feel without doing that, without any experience of not doing that system, is I feel you're just gonna have the people pushing it all the time. I feel like
people pushing it
to the limit and like, all right, now I made it to 20 points and now I'll be good the rest of the year. And do you have guys like that?
Yeah, there's guys, we call them skating on thin ice. They like keeping that kind of edge. I'm like, guys, you'll fall into the ice. You will fall in because something real will happen and you'll go over the edge on all the dumb stuff. And it happened to my number one Mason. He's 26 years old, making a good 6-figure income because he was just making it happen. And he called out for all these dumb stuff. He was late for dumb stuff. And then the final thing that knocked him out was a real deal with his daughter that he had to take her to school or do something. And he lost his job. He's like, you mean you're going to fire me over having me to take my daughter to school because my wife's sick? I'm like, no, you got fired for all the other things that led to this day where I told you, stop being late, stop calling out, stop drinking so much after work. It's going to catch you. And it caught you. And so to your point, he skated on thin ice he thought he could game the system.
Yeah.
I don't have too many people game the system anymore because it's got razor wires on it. You
got history with it now. People have stories of the past ghosts.
Yes.
Right. You have ghost stories with that.
Ghost stories work.
Yeah. No, of course. Because they're actually still haunting you if you're at 20, right?
Exactly.
And so here's something that I've really been always have, but really been concentrating on my coaching business lately is so when you see a problem, like people who are considering a point system or they're having an issue with not going to the point system is really going to the how do you solve it issue. Like so many people are really sitting there and they'll have problems and they might throw some spitballs at it, but they don't really get to the point of, well, how do I fix this? How do I actually fix this and make this into a system? And a lot of people think like when people come to me, can I get your list of SOPs? No, because they're up here. We have a list, but I mean, most of the stuff that we do is talked about. It's probably written down in the handbook, but I mean, there's really no like a lot of this kind of stuff about it. Like we do have written, you got to show up to work, and get out in 15 minutes from clock in. You got to start to show up your first appointment 15 minutes early. That's our culture. That's written down. And there's a lot of little stuff that's not written down that we do as well. And
Same
it's
here.
just the culture, right? It's our SOPs, but they're up here and they're coming out here and they're not on paper. And so, and I find a lot of people that like when they start having problems is they never really get to the root of the source of the problem and then try to come up with an actual successful solution. And they think they do, but they don't. And that's why they keep this circle of life. I mean, and of course, when you start coaching people for more than a year, you start seeding patterns. And I'm well into my 4th year of coaching some people, and I start seeing patterns. And this has been an aha year where now it's like, okay, this is the 3rd pattern I've seen where we're at this time, we're doing this, we solved this, and now, but yet we're back to where it was. Why didn't this work before? What happened? We have to come to it. And they're like, and it always comes down to they just dropped the ball and they weren't accountable to themselves to do it, which I'm reading this up because we're talking about when someone points out, if you don't fire them, you're just going to be right back to, well, what system now do I need to do? Or say, well, no, your system worked fine. You just failed the system. You don't need a new system. You just need to work the system.
Well, also though, I love the saying that it's not what you say, it's what you tolerate. And so again, you can say all the right stuff. You can I told the guys this and our policy, but what you tolerate and whatever you tolerated is really the company policy. And if you let the standard slip to a certain level, that's the new standard. You've now created a new standard that's lower. So for me, if I want a company with high standards, I need to let everybody know what they are. So known by all, the standard is this, you're expected to do this. And in whatever way it is, it could be a policy, it could be a standard operating procedure, it could be written on the wall, it could be a poster, it could be just something, but it better be known by all. And it better be, you better adhere to it at all times, because you can wind up in a lawsuit. You can also wind up with all kinds of dissent in the company. Like if I saw a thing where this guy was his I think it was the saying, his number one guy was a problem. And are we going to fire our number one guy? And I tell a story where I was consulting with a guy that his number one guy was literally abusive to him. He threatened to punch the owner, threatened to beat him up. He was had some issues with office staff and all kinds of problems. But he was the number one guy. He knew the most. He brought the most in. He knew how to do everything. And so he didn't want to fire him because he was that. And I said, so let me get this straight. If I bring you enough money, you will let me question your ethics. You will let me harass your employees. You will let me threaten you physically and sexual harassment to your employees if I bring you enough money. Is that what you're saying? And this guy, it hit him in the face. He's like, hell no. And he got up and he went and fired that guy right now. But I said, that's what you're saying one thing, but you're tolerating something else. And you're telling me that if I bring you enough money, you'll put everything to the side that makes you a good guy in a good company, right? Yeah. And it just hit him hard. And so to me, that's really what this is. Like what you say and what you talk is what, it's not what you say, it's what you tolerate.
So like I said on Surefire tonight, is the solution to the people, to the naysayers or the people that are pointing you out, and it's hard to, I wasn't on the show, so it's hard to text in the comments about what I was really trying to get through, and you hit it a little bit, but it's your hiring process, and then I wish to the Lord I had learned it way earlier than I did. I mean, I wish that even when I was a 2-truck company, I should have an extra guy. I can't remember a time, and I've gone through financial struggles, but I can't remember a time where generally I couldn't afford one more person, right?
Exactly.
One more person. And
you hit it perfectly. You said if you've got a good hiring process, you don't have to put up with as much crap, basically.
It solves, it gives you, It gives you what, how do I always say this? It gives you options.
Exactly. When you're stuck, if you ever have yourself saying, I can't afford to lose him or I'm going to lose a company, you've put yourself in a bad situation. By having a good hiring process and a flow through of people, it's not like you're devaluing your good people. You're actually helping your whole company with options, to use your words, which is exactly right, to build a better and better company. And I think Faisy says it a bunch, level up. You got a chance to level up now because of your hiring process. And I think those are hard fought lessons to learn. But once you learn them, you're not now afraid to lose people, to start over, to have people quit. You cheer them on. Yeah, go find success somewhere else. I got other guys that'll step in and step up.
So I was talking to Bob the writer. That's the guy writing my book for me. That he's the guy that wrote Bebo's. Or I think I'm allowed to say that. I think Darren said it was okay. Oops.
He had a ghostwriter.
Yeah, it goes right. Same guy. I got the same guy that Darren has. He gave him to me, and so talking to him yesterday, and we were talking about when I was younger, and he actually asked me what was the one thing when I was a younger chimney sweep. What was the one thing I wish I had done? I said, I wish I this is the truth. Everyone listening, I'm not kidding. I'm not saying this is one of the reasons why I wanted to do this podcast with Mark today. I flat out told him, and it's going to be in my book coming out later this year, is I wish I had hired earlier and more often. It really is how you start to scale a business, and you don't even do it intentionally. You're just trying to find better people to make your life easier. Yeah. And it's funny when you find one good guy who also, like for me, there was an aha moment for us. Like we didn't want to do hardy board rebuilds on prefabs. We just didn't want to do it. We didn't have any good carpenters. And one day we found a guy that was an awesome carpenter. Like literally could build you a stick house. I mean, he could be a framer for a house. And he's like, why don't we ever do those? And I'm like, because I don't know how to do them very well. I'm not a carpenter. He goes, well, I am. And I'm like, okay, well, I told the guys, sell one. And we put 4 guys on the job instead of the normal 2. And the guys reported back, this guy's awesome. And it's not that hard. Train everybody how to do it in like 2 or 3 deal. Next thing you know, we had 6 trucks that know how to do hardy board stuff.
Wow.
I mean, that's how we got into hardy board rebuilds back in like 2008 or 9. Is, I hired one guy that knew how to cut and knew how to do stuff right, and stuff, versus us. I wasn't ever that handy on that, like that stuff. And that's do it. So I'm talking to Bob the writer, and I'm telling him this, and sometimes, I forget what this is called. It's called like infinite wisdom or something, where you like when you're in a zone and your mind and your mouth just start coming out and you flowing stuff. I read this is in one coaching book I read at one time, and I had this moment when I was talking to Bob, and this little phrase came out: labor equals profit, not cost. And if I could literally train my people to understand, and now strategically, so you're not just going to go hire 10 people when you really can't only afford 1 or 2, but I'm just saying, if you think of your labor as profit and not as cost, you really can't change especially when you're young business, change the philosophy of how you're going to scale or make your business easier. What could one person do to make 5 other people's lives easier?
Right. Yeah. And labor gives you options. Labor gives you revenue. Hopefully you're profitable. Labor definitely gives you revenue and gives you options. And again, for me, it's every truck I put on the road is $350,000. So every 3 trucks is $1 million of business. And so you're right. How fast can we rinse and repeat and do this thing? And every 3 trucks is $1 million. And so that once you understand the formula and understand that 2 guys should bring in $300,000, $150,000 per employee at least, it starts to be a formula that you can rinse and repeat. And to your point, the more people you can bring in, they don't actually cost you money, they make you money.
So we got onto this because of the hiring solves issues and gives you options, right? So we brought that up because the fact of point systems, and you have naughty employees, right? We have naughty guys and girls that will test us, and sometimes you've got to act. What I call, you call hard, I call fierce conversations because of the book that I read. And when we've got a lot. I actually talked to John I don't know, about 3 months ago now, about how many fierce conversations he was having now. He's like, I don't have a lot of them anymore. Because we're fortunate that back in 19, we just made the right amount of hires and the right guys, and these guys have all stuck. And so we're not looking to get rid of anybody right now. But we are hiring. We're hiring, and even though it's slow time. So it's like, it's slow right now. I've built up on cash reserves where I can hire and get there. Cause I know, like you said, if I have that, so we've never actually hit 12 work trucks working in Dallas. We have always had the work to do 12. I mean, in 10 years, I bet you if I could field 12 guys or 12 trucks with 24 guys, we'd still be booked out 3 weeks. I know we would. And we've never hit that goal. And we're gonna hit it this. I mean, there is, come hell or high water, when you guys listen to my podcast come October, I'm gonna have 12 trucks running in Dallas. And we're gonna have at least 2 trucks running in Oklahoma City, and Dallas is not gonna be doing Oklahoma City. But everything that we do here is I've got to take the risk, like I did last year with training and stuff, that this will work. And I think a lot of young people, when we kind of talk about the accountability and stuff, they get fearful of the dollar, and they also get fearful of the training and the replacement of people, right? And they're so like not knowing their budget enough to budget people that, well, let's just go hire 2 people, and one of them will quit. So I always tell guys, go hire 3. I know you can only afford 1, but hire 3, because 2 of them are going to fail. It's just in these days.
We've crossed that tipping point, though. Our companies have crossed that point where it now makes more sense and gets easier to hire people. But until you've crossed that tipping point, hiring more people adds to the chaos. And you're like scared to hire because you feel like you're tapped out. You're probably not making that much money. And there's a point that it doesn't make sense to hire people to add to chaos and spend more money. And like at one point in my business, when we were at about 5 million, I needed to hire a chief operations officer. And, these guys are 6-figure guys. I'm like, well, I'm finally just making good money on a regular basis. I felt like I had to take 100, the 6 figures out of my salary to bring this guy on to relieve some pressure from me. But what I was wrong about was that guy didn't cost me a dime. He made me more money. His total salary was invisible. And then I had another 6-figure guy as our CFO, and he worked on us being more profitable. His salary is nothing. In fact, these guys both make me or save me more money. They didn't cost me a dime. So when you hire the right people, if you got a wrong person, yeah, it's cost you money. You hire the right people every time, especially if you plug them into a good system, you're making more money. So how fast can we do it?
I got to say, so you said a little bit ago, we've reached that threshold. And what the difference with me and you, we're the same back then. The difference now with a lot of people is the ones who I'm telling to throw gas on this fire are actually being coached by me. Right. So I'm not letting it get more chaotic. We've gotten to a point where, I've turned around their chaos, and now they're in control. And so I'm in the middle. I'm about to sign with a coach this for me. So, I'm not a hypocrite. I actually get coached. I have 2 coaches.
Me too.
And I'm about to be coached for a scaling coach for the coaching business. And so I'm about to, it's 25 grand. This isn't cheap. It's 25 grand for me to do this. And I'm going to get coached by them. And I'm not tweeting everybody's horn here. I'll just tell you, you can go on with your business and try to learn stuff yourself. I never hired a coach. So I'm the opposite of what you'd think. I never hired a coach, but I became a coach. So am I a hypocrite? No, I'm the exact opposite. I became a coach because of my wisdom that I learned through my stuff, and I'm still learning, and I passed what I'm learning over to everybody else. But because I didn't have a coach, I recognized the fact that I wished to prayed that I would have 10 years ago.
Right.
That's why I'm actually more passionate about it like that, because I wish I had done that. Like, how much help did you get from 2008? You talk about John Meredith helped you and all this stuff. I never had anybody help me. This is why I'm 5-6 million behind you. I didn't have that. I
Well,
didn't.
I got, again, I didn't know that I needed help until it arrived. And I'm like, yeah, I need help. And he's like, well, you need to think about this or do that. And that was my first real step into, oh, these guys know what I should do and they want to help me. And so therefore I started getting addicted to reading a lot of leadership books, listening to mentors, getting more mentors, seeking out coaches, paying for coaches. And then I realized that all that is out there, and you're not saving yourself money by not getting this kind of, one-to-one or even group coaching. That really, the little nuggets that you act on can make you hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars sometimes. And the vision that a coach can set for you is really hard to quantify. If it sticks with you and go, yeah, I'm going to do that. Like, what's that worth, right?
Yeah. I mean, so I'm going through this with a lot of my younger companies right now that have only been with me for like 5 to 6 months. And I've lost a few here in the last 6 weeks, more than I'd like to say, but it's okay because I'm really hard on them to say, listen, you're having staffing problems. You know, you need more people, yet they're not hiring people. So we keep going over the same issue. And then eventually I'm trying to either change the subject or something else. It's like, I need you to get on board to hire 2 people. That is the problem. I mean, I don't even want to talk to you today because honestly, we have to get to that to get you training them people so that some of these guys are half in the truck still. And I'm like, you don't need to be in the truck at all. I mean, take yourself out of the truck even for a week right now and concentrate on finding the 2 people so that we can move on here because you're stuck. I'm not. And I want to help you be unstuck and to move on. And I've literally had some guys just go, I can't do that. I can't do that. And I'm like, okay. And
well, that's what a good coach does. A good coach points out your problems and lets you work on it. How fast you come to fixing your swing or stop the drop back 3 steps, take 2 steps, whatever the coach does. Yeah. It's up to you to take coaching. Like some people are very coachable and some aren't. Some of my best guys, the thing I love about them, they might push back on me, but they're still coachable. My daughter is a great little entrepreneur. She's amazing. She's coachable. Now, there's times we butt heads, but in general, she calls and says, what do I need to do here? How do I do that? My son, unfortunately, is not coachable. He really does not look for coaching through me. Now, he looks at other things, but the best people. And for me, I stay coachable. I feel like I learn from everybody. I feel like I can. Now, there's certain people that speak to me differently and better, but in general, I'm still a student of the game. But the main thing is I will act on it. I will put things in place. Now, as I go to national conventions, there's fewer and fewer things that really get me going, but I'm always looking for one thing. A lot of people are like, I want to be blown away by every class. That's not going to happen for me. I'm looking for one thing. I'm looking for one one different tweak on it or a thing I can check. Like there was a thing about somebody gave a class. I think it was Corey. I can't think of his last name, but he talked about, public adjusters and insurance work. And so my guys say, have we looked into this? So I looked into it. My public adjuster, who I'm good friends with, he goes, well, we don't really take on too many jobs that are not at least $100,000. Because most of my chimney jobs are 5 to 15,000. He's like, they probably wouldn't work. So the information from him worked for him. It just is not going to work for me. So I think the main thing is getting information. If you listen to these podcasts, watch these lives, listen to people talk, is acting upon what they say. It's the most respectful thing you can do for your coach or your mentor is act on what they say you should do.
By the way, that was Corey Flowers, everybody.
Corey Flowers,
yeah. Good class on insurance adjusting and stuff. But I think there's something that I think a lot of people, you say it, but I don't think a lot of people actually understand it. You didn't become, you're not Mark Stoner of 10, 15 years ago. I know you get that across how you built your business, but I think a lot of people don't really understand. You became a student of business. You became a student of how to grow a business. And I don't think people actually understand the commitment that you put to what you can do. And maybe now, because you've done so much, like you said, you go on a convention, that can be boring at times, or not. That's a fair word. I'm going to just say it. If you don't like it, too bad, everybody out there. But I mean, there's times because I mean, let's face it, you're the top 3 businesses in our industry out there, and you're looking for that one thing. But I don't think people understand that you literally, I can't even imagine how many books you've read, how many podcasts you listen to, and you still do that.
Yeah.
And
I think I'm up to about 800 business books.
yeah, I mean, I've read 5. Not really. I probably read 20, but seriously, I mean, still a stupid number compared to you, right? And it's like, but see, here's what I want everyone to listen to. This is the point I'm really trying to make. Yes, Mark has a $12 million better chimney / whatever business he has, all the little business he has.
We should hit 16 this year.
There you go. I mean, guys, but here's the thing. He was you at some point.
Totally. One man operation.
And he was reading the books then. He was doing the podcast then. He was scaling up his learning. And that's what I think a lot of people, it's like, I think what I hear this a lot. I just don't have time. I hate the time excuse. I hate it because if you're not going to fix it, you're going to be the victim of your own business. It's just, you're going to keep churning the wheel like a mouse, on a mouse on that wheel.
We all have the same amount of time, but I promise you, if you hung out with me, you realize I've cut a lot of stuff out that takes time, and also I've taken out the things that I love being a technician, right? I love that, but you won't ever see me comment on technical things. You'll hear me comment on business. I won't take technical classes anymore. I don't read technical manuals. My whole focus is to put down being an expert technician and become an expert business guy. There's so much on an expert technician that I can get a lot out of, but there's so much more on being an expert business person. It opens up the world to me. And it's the best thing for my employees. The best thing for my employees is for me to be the best business guy. If I am the number 1 technician in my company, I have just crippled my company. If I'm the number 1 best business guy, I have opened up the floodgates to opportunity for my people. So my total focus is be the best business guy I can be and the best leader I can be, and develop leaders under me or with me. And that is my role. And I'm super passionate about it. I like the technical stuff. I love laying brick. I liked sweeping chimneys and talking to my customers. It's a total waste of my time to do that. And it's hurtful to my team. If I really care about my team, make me the best business guy I can be, best leader guy, open up the doors for more opportunity so that those people who've put all these years in me get right behind me. They don't want to leave, but they want to be right in the way. So I cut the path and they get to follow along the path with me because I need them too. Right.
Right.
So,
and so as you guys listen to him talk, luckily I could zip my mouth just a little bit enough to let him say something. And so, but seriously, I think as I'm getting a lot of aha moments, and I've let my calendar go down to under 20 one-on-ones right now, which is, I haven't been under that for a long time. And I haven't seeked out a lot of new people here lately. It's because I want to grow the coaching, the group side. But here, the point I'm trying to make is I'm doing that, and I've let these guys do that. But I think the part I'm trying to hammer to people is, and my tagline is, go get yourself in trouble.
sure.
And I only say that because they feel like they're going to go get in trouble and they have to do it. And I'm like, well, I got your back. I promise you this. I'm not going to steer you into real trouble. We're going to strategically do this, but you got to have people to do it. And I'm sorry that you're a 3-truck company, or a 3-person company. You need 2 more people.
What you're really saying though, when you say go get yourself in trouble, is you're saying, guys, failure is on the same side of the equation as success. So to be successful, go fail. It's the same thing. You have one is the other one. It's not the opposite. Failure if you know, you're saying don't go get yourself in trouble because that would be the opposite of success. You're saying go get yourself in trouble because it is success. Those two things are on the same side of the equation. And we're taught the opposite of that in school, that an F and an A are totally the opposites. And in school it is. But in life, they're the same damn side. And that's the thing everybody misses. And the thing that you're not afraid of, you're not afraid to fail. I'm not afraid to fail because we know we have to be successful. And that's what your tagline really says, is that is the key to success.
And guys, and I've never explained it as good as that, but the truth is, you know, you have to go fail. And what's nice about having a coach is a lot of times you're not going to fail. I'm not going to purposely put you on a failure path because I already know, don't do it like that. Do it like this. Right. You know, because I did it like that.
You're not going to fail to wreck it. You're going to fail to learn.
Right. Right. That's good. That's a good one. And believe me, I failed to wreck a lot growing my business. I just did. I mean, so I was talking to Bob, the writer, and I'm talking to him, and he's like, do you think you could put a number on how many times that you wish you wouldn't have done that? I said, no, there's no number. It's that much.
It's the same.
And I don't regret anything. I really, I mean, to the most part, there's some minor regrets, but I mean, the minor regrets, it's like, you don't harp on them. You don't deal with them. I mean,
it helps you understand the guardrails. Like there's bumping up against stuff that you learn from. There's bumping up against stuff that could ruin you. And you learn the guardrails, like not paying your taxes. Okay, it can ruin you. But you know, you learn the real guardrails, because I've had tax issues myself. I've had profitable issues. I've had things that could get me in trouble. If you don't have the right insurances, if you don't know the codes, like you learn the real, you know, you learn the guardrails, the hard ones, and then you learn the middle ones that don't matter so much. We screwed up this job. We messed up the bid. We hired the wrong guy. We didn't fire the guy in time. Like those are the bumping, getting in trouble things. Like, yeah, don't get in trouble and wind up in prison, but get in trouble and learn from it. Most of the right things are financial. Like you learn financially, we do this faster, or we don't do that. We don't wind up in prison.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know if I've ever told this story. I ever tell you about the garage door business I had that I do you know what a double truck advertising is back in the day?
Oh, that's the double on the yellow pages.
Yeah.
You told me about this.
I did that. So I was a chimney guy already, and it was probably my second year in business. And our garage door fell off of its track. Right. And spring didn't break or nothing, but it fell off. And I tried to fix it, and it didn't take me, I don't know, 5 seconds to figure out, okay, way out of my expertise to put this thing back on. And so got on the phone book, and you're going through full page ads, and you call one and they show up. And, you know, this was maybe 99, maybe 2000. And the guy goes, $289. I'll have it done here in about 15 minutes. I went, what? He goes, yeah.
It's magic too.
It's like, okay, do it. Okay. So he's doing it, and I'm sitting out in my back. At the time, I had a little starter house that did have a pool, which was cool. And I was just sitting back there with the garage door, side door open, where he could see me sitting out there on the patio. And he literally, I could see him working, has that sucker on in 10 minutes. Right. And I'm just like, God dang, that was fast. Yeah. So he comes in to get the check. I said, come in here. You know, he came in there, and he sits down. I'm writing him the check, and I go, how many of these do you do a day? And he goes, well, I don't know, 10. And I'm like, what? So I'll work till about 10 o'clock. By the time everybody comes home, and I started around 3, and from 3 to 10 o'clock at night, I do about 10 of these. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. And it's like, you ever think about getting in the garage door business? And the guy goes, no, but I sub out for a couple different ones. I said, okay, would you sub out for me if I started one? He goes, yeah, here's my card. So I literally called my AT&T or Southwestern Bell. I think they were Southwestern Bell at the time. Called them up and said, hey, I want to take out a garage door ad. And the guy goes, oh, well, there's only one way to do that. You got to take a double truck out. I said, okay, what's that cost? He goes, $11,100 a month. Said,
oh, God.
Oh. I said, can you get me approved? And he goes, I don't know. Let's run your credit. And he goes, Calls me back a day later. You're approved. I said, let's do it.
Oh my God.
I'm sorry.
11,000
This
a
was
month.
2000. This was
Yeah.
2001.
It's like
2001.
40,000 now.
Yeah. No, I signed that deal. Are you ready for this? Like August 17th of 2001. Think about what's happening in 3 weeks from now.
Oh,
Fuck.
August 2001, September 2001, the world came
Yeah.
to an end.
Yeah. And I had an $11,100 bill starting in October.
And everything shut down for a while.
Yeah. I paid it. I was able to pay for half of it and totally the second half of it. Luckily I was smart enough to put it on a different ID and it didn't affect my chimney business. But that's one of those things I learned how to advertise. That was when I learned I had to learn Google better when Google was brand new. And so I literally, they wouldn't let me, I stayed with one more year through 2002 in phone books. I haven't taken a phone book out since 2003.
Yeah.
Not one. I've never been in paper since. Yep.
I
And
mean,
this is one of the reasons why I
all the-
scaled bigger, faster than everybody else, because people were starting to use that thing, Yahoo and that Google and all
Yeah.
that stuff. And it worked. And
I mean,
loved
every
it.
business, everything I can look back on different businesses, there was a moment we made a mistake. There was a moment we risked it and something didn't pay off. But there's also a pivot somewhere in there that we're like, okay, this isn't working. And then we pivoted to something that changed the whole thing and made it work. And, like a quick thing, I have an online training platform called Surefire. Well, that came out of a failed thing, which we franchised the chimney business. And that wasn't going, so it was hard to sell a chimney franchise, honestly. But inside that, we built a training platform for our franchisees and our own companies. And we're like, I think other companies could really benefit from this thing, from something that was failing.
I didn't want to buy a franchise from you.
Right. I mean, you need to. Like, that was the aha moment that, what, most of these guys don't want to buy a franchise. And also people that don't know the chimney company business don't want to buy a franchise either. Nobody does. So
Right.
amazing. I found a very expensive way to come to an online training platform that a lot of people do find value in.
Right.
But same thing with my chocolate company. I bought a chocolate franchise kind of thing. They said, yeah, get into malls and all these street fairs. Well, we got into malls and we hated malls. We did not, but we decided to flip it and make our own chocolate in our own little boutique store and our own online thing that became a good thing. Like every single thing I can look back on, there was a big failure, a pivot, and then it's where we are today. Now, I don't know what failures are ahead of me, but my metal fab did the same thing. It metal fab to make chimneys, caps. I don't know how to make those things. It now pivoted into full-time caps. It pivoted into powder coating. It's pivoted into a thing that we didn't see before we got into it. And again, to your point, go get yourself in trouble. It's just the fact of not being afraid to try something and understand it will be a thing you talk about, a lesson that either guided you to the right way or you failed or and it still guided you the right way. The failures and the wins all guide you in the right direction in some way or another. One's the left bumper, the other one's the right bumper, and as long as you keep going, you learn from them.
So let me ask you this. We're talking about pivots. In your medium days, I'm not talking about your start off days. I'm not talking about recently. What was your biggest pivot, you think, in your halfway point?
That's easy. At 5 million, I got stuck. I was stuck. And my mentor said, you need somebody to come in. You need a president. You need somebody to come in to help you. Well, my thought, I looked inside my company and I'm like, what I realized, the biggest pivot right there was I need somebody who has run a big company and they can look back at my company. They'd run a $30 million company and look back at my $5 million company and can push all the buttons and launch us. And sure enough, in 4 years, since I got that guy, 4 years ago, we were 5 million. I got the right guy and he got another guy. We're 16 million. We've grown $11 million in 4 years. On top of what I was already one of the larger companies, but I got the right guys at a certain size that knew how to do it. And now I've got another pivot coming up in our warehousing and production to get another high level person. My biggest pivot is to don't be afraid to buy real talent. They will pay for themselves and they will make you go faster. Homegrown talent is one thing for internal leadership, but real growth for me came from outside. That pivot was people who they couldn't have built it from 0 to 5, right? They weren't the right guys, but they could take it to 5 to 50, right? And then it'll probably be another set of guys that go 50 to 100. Like, I'm just making up numbers, but it's me as an owner stepping outside of myself and realizing there's true experts out. I'm the founder, but I'm not the end all for all growth. It's out of my realm. All I have to do is lead it, make sure they don't run off the rails and ruin what I've built. But that was the biggest pivot in the chimney business, was to get high level help.
That's a great answer, because I love it, because I'm at 5 million.
Yeah.
I'll be at 5 million.
You're at that point.
Yeah, I'm at that
there.
point.
You're kind of going through it faster than I did. I got stuck there for about 3 years.
Well, I'm just getting there. I mean, we're only at 4 last year, but we were already tracking 5 this year. And so, but I think the biggest thing, like last year, if you recall, I was talking about how I needed someone. I need that guy you're talking about. And I was thinking about him last year, and I thought, I think I can get to 5 and maybe even 6 the way we are. But I do know, and we all recognize, as a matter of fact, we're going to the cabin for our meeting this weekend for all our management. And we're going to be discussing that role, and so nobody gets butt hurt. I'm going to be like, we are bringing in someone between me and John that eventually is going to take us to the 10. And to that point is I don't have an ego. I am so whatever we can do, and you know me enough that if I see something that looks good, and I'm not talking shiny, I'm saying, oh, I need to do that. I as soon as I get a chance, I'm calling up. We're doing this now, like this.
Exactly.
And so and we do that. So I mean, so for everybody, we kind of started about accountability and the point system, but I gotta say, because I know I'm talking to a lot of my listeners right now, and I say, not just go get yourself in trouble. You've got to hire more people. I know you're scared to do it. I brought Mark on to talk about accountability, and I knew that I had a written down. We're going to get into hiring, because I know everyone's scared they can't afford it. And I think you cannot not afford it to do it, especially to give yourself you need to buy yourself some freedom. And by doing that is hiring 1 or 2 extra people. Even if you're a 3-person company right now, hire somebody.
I will say this, make sure you do understand numbers and profitability before you hire too many people, because my story goes back to 2008, where I didn't really understand numbers, but I was good at hiring people, and I had way too many people for the revenue that I was generating. And all sales are great when the economy is good. Like they say mustard covers up a lot of sins. Yeah. Well, so does sales. A lot of sales covers up a lot of sins. And when the sales stopped, the sins that I had created with bad leadership, bad operating procedures, bad profitability money, it rolled backwards, and I was broke and could have been out of business if I had very many loans out. But the point is, again, I'm all about scaling up. Just understand, at least to be profitable, because if you're losing a dime a watermelon, you don't want to buy a semi full of watermelons to sell. You want to make sure you're profitable even a little bit before you start scaling up, so that revenue does add to the bottom line.
Right. And most of the people I'm dealing with right now, they're like booked out 3 months. It's like there's not a problem with finances here. It's you even if they didn't know their numbers, which they all do because they work with me. They're even still scared. They're like 3 months booked. It's like, how do you not understand? And I'm trying, I'm shaking the sugar tree here a little bit, but it's like you can't afford 1 or 2 people. You can't. You're booked out for that much. You could easily just go back, like we always talk about. I personally like to be booked out about 2 weeks. I don't like going more than that.
Yeah.
A week scares me a little bit. I like the 2 week thing. And of course, in the wintertime, we book up 6 weeks. And I hate it, and that's where I want to have 12 this year. But when I'm talking to the little guy right now, and I'm really talking to the guys that are working with me more than anything, that are all listening to this, I'm trying to get Mark and you and me to understand that you hear us. We've been through this. We're justifying, your numbers, you're booked out. We're telling you it's okay to hire. And then some of the people who might be sitting there thinking, yeah, I'm a 4-truck company, and I'm booked out. If you're literally booked out more than 2-3 weeks right now, you can use another 2 people.
Sure. I know guys booked out 3 months,
Yeah.
but and they're just booked out forever. I'm like, well, it doesn't really do you any more good. Tomorrow is the only day that really matters on the books. After that, a lot of times, especially in this economy, you're losing money to be booked out more than a month because prices have increased, but you're still stuck on the bid that you gave. You need to be more flexible in this market. And the way to be more flexible is to have more people or raise your prices so you're not booked out so far. Because if you're booked out that far, there's something internally wrong. You're either not booking enough, you're not hiring enough. I mean, you're not charging enough, you're not you don't have enough people. You're actually working at a very big disadvantage. Now, a lot of people feel that's like a safety net and that's like a safety blanket to be booked out that far. To me, it feels like it's an anchor. Like I'm booked out that far and I am dying under the pressure because stuff's going to go wrong. People are going to be mad. I'm going to be losing jobs because people are going to go somewhere else. Like all my marketing dollars and effort went to somebody else. I teed it up for them and they took my job. Like, if you're booked out that far, you need to look in the mirror and say, I am the problem. I am the bottleneck for the business. And I said this before, my job as the leader is to break up bottlenecks. If you can't see that as a leader, you're the problem. You're the bottleneck. So fix it somehow. Get Chad to help you. Get somebody to help you. Get some help and do something about it.
I think one of the things that I've been trying to solve in their mindset, I'm trying to say, how many jobs are you missing right now? That if you had it, you're booked out for this long, and I'm not accepting that you're waiting on parts anymore. I get it, but I mean, in the same aspect, you literally could be probably doubling your business if you would just handle the calls that are coming in now.
I think the other side, though, that people are afraid of is they scale up, but they don't know how to scale down, because scaling down is as important as scaling up. If this tide turns, you've got to be able to cut people loose and you've got to be able to scale things back at a equal, if we're saying, hey, hire 3 people right now, you also got to be able to be willing to get rid of 3 people right now. And a lot of people can't come to that scaling downside. I know that's what ruined me in 2008, because when stuff turned, I thought I could save everybody, and it was my job to save everybody at the detriment of me and the company. What I need to know now, what I told a guy yesterday, he's wanting to hire 8 people. He's an 8-person business. He's going to hire 100% more people. I said, no problem. But the thing that worries me is you've got to be able to back it down too and be okay with it. And I said, as long as you're okay with backing it down as fast as you're ramping it up, then do it. If you're not okay, if you can't have those conversations, if you can't do that, you should probably ramp up about half as fast, because you could be on the hook for these people if the economy turns. But I don't ever like to run scared. So if you're willing to back down, ramp up, be willing to back down and go for it. I mean, absolutely go for it.
I was the king of scaling down and scaling up. And I just was. I had no problem hiring and firing. And I would do that on the cycle. And we finally broke the cycle in like 2017. I have to get my finances right. And I was already building my finances, but I said, I need to have my core set of at least 5 to 6 trucks in Dallas and 2 in Houston for sure, minimum. That core has got to stay. And then we can scale up and scale down, but I want to keep an average of 40 to 45 people. That's been the goal since 17, and to keep that many people all year round. So I've mastered that with my finances, and and we will scale up, maybe up to maybe 48 to 50 in the wintertime. We've done it a few times. But I mean, either way, I have no problem. I've never thought about teaching people that part. So thank you for that. Cause I was never scared.
Right. A lot of people are.
Yeah. And but no one ever tells me that. So that's why I'm glad you mentioned it, because now I can bring it to the attention. Are you scared to hire, and then are you scared to fire or lay off? You're not really firing, you're laying them off. Right. I never had that problem. I always had the separation of business and people's lives, because the business to me was an entity on its own, and it had to be numbers. Coming from the restaurant business, very heavy numbers. So I've always been a good numbers guy for my weekly stuff. I can't tell you what I ran for the year generally, but I can tell you what I have next week, and I can tell you what my profit is next week, which is always different from me than a lot of other larger companies. I don't manage my business for the year or last quarter. I manage it. I look at last year and I look at last month or last whatever, but I'm really looking at last week, this week, and next week. What happened last year, these weeks? And that's how I manage. Right. And so, I mean, it's a very different way than a lot of other people look at their business. And I pretty much do pretty well with it. And so
you're good at knowing the temperature of the business. A lot of people they don't really know the temperature of the business. They just know how busy they are. They really don't know if they're making money, losing money. They don't know year over year where they are. They don't know month over year. They don't know year to date. They're just running. And your point is, you're not just, what the score is. A lot of people don't even know the score. They just know the score is me working. And I've got some money they look at the bank account as their scorecard. Well, that's a shitty scorecard, because it doesn't tell you the whole score. You don't know what's coming, what's going to happen, what your expenses are going to be. Like, people use their checkbook as a scoreboard instead of a budget. And sometimes it's okay. And the smaller you are, you can use your checkbook as a scoreboard. But in general, you're going to go broke if you just use your checkbook as a scoreboard.
Yeah. My wife got fired because of that.
What's that?
Krista got fired from the company because of that. My wife, she got taken, and we talk about it before, and she has no bones about it. It's going to be in the book. She literally would pay the home bills first, and we got in trouble. We literally got in trouble a couple of times, and I literally had to pull the checkbook away from her and do it. Then when we finally hired David, our CFO, I pulled it totally away from her. I said, "It's done. You don't touch the business bills anymore. You get paid by the company, and that's it now."
Exactly.
And it was a relief.
Commingling of funds. You got to be careful commingling funds.
Yep. And this was a long time. This was 15 years ago. So we learned that lesson.
All these lessons, Chad, that everybody does them. Like, everybody makes the mistake till somebody slaps them in the hand, or somebody slaps you and goes, "Don't do that." And there's a difference between ignorant and being stupid, right? Ignorant is you didn't know. Stupid is you knew and you kept doing it. So it's okay to be ignorant. It's not okay to be stupid.
Yeah. And we're going to end it, because me and you can talk. I mean, this is a long podcast. I mean, I don't know how long we've gone now, but it's long. So Mark, thank you. And so I'm going to end it quickly, because guys, everybody, Mark will be on, I'll be on his show. We'll be Surefire, blah, blah, blah. So I appreciate Mark. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me, Chad. I appreciate it.